is out. The summertime is just
hello folks,
about
welcome you to the fishing seminar this week. And we were going to have Captain Mark Harrison. His charter run a little long today. So he was still cleaning up the boat, wasn't able to make it. But we got Chuck, who was actually fishing today and actually did pretty good. Chuck's been fishing inshore and offshore for a long time. He's got a wealth of information that he'd be glad to give to y'all. And he's also here on the weekends, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings, if you need to bend his ear a little more. But, feel free to ask questions, and we're here for you guys. The more fish you catch, the more tackle I sell.
The more tackle we use.
There is a selfish motive to being able to get you guys catching fish, but hopefully it benefits everybody in the long run. So we'll turn it over to Chuck. Thank you, Chuck.
All right, Mr. Cat.
No problem. Okay, first of all, I'm going to show you the kind of rods and tackle I use. I use two different kind of rods, king mackerel fishing. I use a 7-foot rod, key Largo, of course. You can use Shimano, different kinds. And I use a 545 pin reel or 535 pin reel, or you can use a TOD 15. That's your preference. I use 20-pound line. I like the colored or camouflage line. Some people like green line. Some people like blue line. I just like camouflage because it's sort of, you don't see it in the water. And I use fluorocarbon leader, and I use a 20-pound fluorocarbon leader. And I set my rods up. If you buy a 25-foot or yard spool of fluorocarbon, it's 75 feet. So I set mine up 32 and 43. That's 75 foot. And so that way my lines will be staggered out when I put them out. And when I get to my knot, I know I've got 32 foot. And so that there's no guesswork, like, you fish with your buddy and said, how far is that line out? And well, pretty far. How far is pretty far? But if you measure your leaders and put them the same distance, then you'll know how far it is out. On the starboard side of the boat is where I put my short line. And that's the 32-foot leader. So I let it all the way out, and when I get to 32 foot, I wind it back on the rod and make one turn. And then that's going to be the same distance every time. I'm fishing the same distance every time. Then on the
Is that a superstition, or is that some?
No, because I use what they call a pro turn.
Okay,
when I
so
go
when
up
you turn, you always know that.
When I go up to a buoy, I always go on the left-hand side of the buoy.
I got it.
And then because on my port side of the boat is the deep downrigger.
Got it.
And so whenever you got one deep and you got one shallow, I always put the deep one on the right-hand side. So when I turn, I go up to the buoy, I go on the left-hand side of the buoy, and I make a right-hand turn. And that way I don't get tangled up. But remember, I got 32 foot here, and I got 43 foot on this side. So I got my line staggered. So when you do that, it keeps you from getting tangled up. Now, on my outside rods that I use for an outrigger, I use what they call a poor man's outrigger. I use a Scotty. I use an 8-foot rod. And the reason I use an 8-foot rod is because my boat's 8 foot wide. I got 8 foot over here, and I got 8 foot over here. I got 16, I got 24 foot. So I got a spread of 24 foot on that side of the boat. And now, if you got outriggers on your boat, you got lines up, or you got T-top and you got lines on T-top, and the wind blows, what happens? You get a lot of bag in your line, okay? So you don't get as good a hookup. So by using the Scotty downrigger, where it fits in your gunwale, my rod is laying down flat side the boat. So when my line goes back, it's laying flat on the water. It's not way up in the air, so I get less wind blowing my rods. I get a better hookup. And that's the reason I use the 8-foot rods, because I get a wider spread on my rods. I use the same thing, 20-pound line, 20-pound fluorocarbon. It's from a leader. Now on the outside rods, I use a longer leader than I do on the downrigger, because the downriggers you're not going to put as far back. On your outside rods, you're going to put them further back. On my outside rods, I use 75 foot on the port side, and I use 100 foot of fluorocarbon on the starboard side. So when I let it out, I get to my knot, I turn back, from the same distance every time. So I'm not getting tangled up when I make my turns. Okay. And that's basically the way I do my rods, my setup. Now, if you'll notice here, I got a little red tag in the bottom of that. That tells me on my boat, that rod goes on the outrigger on the port side.
Okay.
Because I got all my rods are the same, all Key-Largo good rods. And I use blue down and red up, so they're marked so I can tell which way to go. But the red on the port, and I use the green for the starboard. So that way, if you go on my boat and I say that goes on the port side, starboard side, so your friends will know how you set your rods out there. And it works real easy that way because then it's not a lot of guesswork to it. That's the way I set it up. And if you got a boat that's got outriggers, that's fine. You can use the same setup on your outriggers as you do. You just won't let them out the same distance. It works the same way. This is what I use on my boat because I don't have outriggers. And a lot of the Gulf Stream boats have outriggers. That just fits down in the gunnel on your boat. This sits.
What's that thing called again, Chuck?
It's a Scotty outrigger. It's a Scotty downrigger. That sits in your gunnel.
Right.
This fits right in here. Okay? That sits out. And you tighten it up. And they'll tighten. These are stainless steel and they'll last you forever. I've had mine 6 years. And I mean, they're just almost indestructible. So when I want to put my outside rod, this one, which would be this 8-foot rod, it fits in here and then this closes up. And I'm fishing 8 foot, 8 foot. I'm 24-foot spread. Fish hits, just open this up, take it out, fight my fish in. I don't have a lot of bag in my line because my line's laying on top of the water. Okay, but I'm always letting my baits have the same distance because my feet is the same on my outrigger rods as they are. I mean, in your downrigger rods, you got the same distance on the top and the bottom.
Well, the distance you're talking about is it's mainly for turning and all that. It had nothing to do where the fish bite.
No, that's exactly right.
Okay, it's just to make sure you get tangled up and all
that's
that.
true too. But you know, and if you want to use one in the wash, you can pull a rod up and put it in the wash, which will be close in. I mean, that's up to you. That's your preference.
Got it.
But normally, if you get too many rods out, and I don't never trope with 4 rods. But 2 down, 2 up. And when you get out there first start fishing, like when I go up to, let's say this is 355. If I go up to the buoy, I'm going to make my left hand turn on the buoy because I'm going to come back around on the right hand side. So that way my bait's pulling around the buoy, but my deep bait's coming around the buoy. So that works great that way when you make it turn around. I make 2 passes on the buoy. If I don't get a strike, I'm gone. People can stay at a place too long. If the fish is there and the bait's there, they'll let you know. You don't have to stay 2 or 3 hours. Because king mackerel, they swim and eat. And if there's cigar minnows on the buoy, like the day we was out at one of the buoys out here, we pulled up to the buoy, and there was a lot of cigar minnows around the buoy. They was on the south side of the buoy. This time of the year, a lot of your bait's going to be on the south side of the buoy. And the reason that is, for morning, the sun comes up over here, so the bait's going to stay on the shady side of the buoy. And the wind has another factor too, which way the wind's blowing, where the bait's going to be. So we made the pass around the buoy twice, didn't get a bite, so I said, let's move. So we moved, went down to a ledge out there, and we marked in the bottom, marked bait on the bottom, bang, there with the Kens. You look for bait, you look for structure. If you got a flat bottom, you're not going to catch a lot of king mackerel. You've got to have some kind of structure. But there's a lot more things I could add to that, but that's the setups that I use, and this makes it real simple to give you your spread to where you won't get tangled up. If you use this or something where you can lay your lines flat, you'll catch a lot more fish because you don't have a bag in your line and you get a good hook set. I fish a tight drag because I use real limber rods. If you use a stiff rod, you know you have to back off on the drag a little bit. But I use Key-Largo rods like the 10-12s, the 10-20s, or 20-30s. I use a little bit stiff rod on the downrigger because you got that line down at 30 foot or 40 foot and it pulls harder in the water, so I use a little bit stiffer rod on the downrigger.
Are you using planers then? To get your
We don't use planers, we use downriggers.
yeah, oh.
The downside of planers is you got to hand line the fish in unless you do the release clip off, and that's just a lot of extra work. If you're gonna get serious about king mackerel fishing, I'd buy a downrigger. because eventually you're going to catch more fish that way, and they're easier to handle than planers are. Now, whenever we yellowfin tuna fish or bluefin tuna fish in the Gulf Stream, we use big planers, but that's a different fishery. I'm going to just give you, show you a few of the baits I use. There's about 4 different types of bait or rigs. You got a live bait rig, you got a dead bait rig, and you got an artificial. That's your 3 types of king mackerel fish, a bait. This is just a plain naked bait that you would use for a live bait. It has no weight on it. I always use skirts on live bait, especially on top. Now, if I'm fishing down, I use a glow bead on my naked bait. I don't use a skirt. If I'm going to use a glow bead, I like to just use the bead on it. Because if you take a glow bead and put it in a dark room, you can see that bead 40, 50, 60 foot. Okay, king mackerel can do the same thing. If you got that bait down at 40 foot, he can see that bead coming across like this, and the boat's doing it down like this here. So, on all my naked baits that I use the bead on it if I'm fishing deep. You fish a skirt, which is just a plain bait, and we got a little thing called a Carolina keeper. I use those on my rigs, and that way I can slide the skirt up to my swivel, or I can run the skirt on the nose, and I can just move it up and down the line. It works real good. Or sometimes the bait will bite better up at the top with the skirt up at the top than they will back at the back. Sometimes they want it on the nose, but you got that option of going both ways if you put that Carolina keeper on it, and it works great. That's just a naked bait, and you can use it with a skirt or without a skirt. And there's just a naked bait with nothing on it. A lot of guys that tournament fish, they want a naked bait with nothing on it. They'll just use a nose hook and a treble, a nose hook and 2 trebles. That's your preference.
You let the treble hang, or you put the treble on the fish?
On a single treble, I let it hang.
Okay.
Because if you hook it in the tail, the fish can't swim.
Got it.
So that restricts his movement if you hook it in the tail. I'll make all my king rigs with what I call a slip treble. I've got 2 trebles and a nose hook. And the middle treble slips. It moves. Two advantages. If you're using baits, all your bait's not going to be the same size if you're catching live bait. So if you got a slip treble, you can adjust that middle treble as to where you want to up and down the bait and still keep a hook at the tail. Very important. And if the bait wants to, dead bait wants to spin, you can take that treble and hook it on this side, you can hook it on this side, and you can adjust it to make the bait swim straight. And also, you've got always a bait, a hook at the end at the tail of the fish. That's very important, and that stops your tail bites. And you know, if you're fishing with a big ballyhoo or cigar minnow or whatever it is, and you run into a small kings, they're going to bite your tails off. But if you got that trailing hook at the tail, that saves your bait, and a lot of times you catch fish that way. And I make some 4.5 inches, and I make some 6 inches, because all your baits are not going to be the same length. So you make you some different rigs, different lengths to where, you know, that adjust to the bait you're using. That's just a naked bait. If you want to use that with menhaden or cigar minnows you jig up at the buoy, you can do that with just a naked bait. Today we caught most of our fish on what they call a pirate plug. And that's one of the best bait that you can use for king mackerel, because it'll run down about 4 or 5 foot. That's just, you know, we debate on it. And most time you can use a ballyhoo with this, or you can use a cigar minnow with it. And now I alter mine a little bit. If you'll notice this, if you go by that off of the shelf, it doesn't have a skirt in it. Tell you my secrets. I put a skirt, a mylar skirt in mine. Makes it a lot deader. Gives you a lot of flash in the water when it's coming through the water. So, and it doesn't matter what color it is. If it's green, we call some on green. But in a pirate plug, I use I put a glow bead in it, and I got a nose hook. Now, here's what I tell you about the slip treble. I can adjust that hook there anywhere I want to in the bait, but I always keep I keep a treble hook at the back of the bait, and that way I can move that hook up and down, and that way that stops your tail bites. Now that would maybe for that's a cigar minnow bait because it's short. Now for a ballyhoo, you can still use this same hook. We use a small ballyhoo, what they call a dink ballyhoo. It's small. You can use that same hook, But if you buy a power plug off the shelf, they gonna have a 2/0 hook in the plug gun, but it's a long shank, and it locks into there's a lock in there for the long shank hook. So it use either way. I just like to use that kind of hook, especially with cigar mount, because I can adjust it with this trapper, and that helps me a lot with the tail bite. But I always try to fish power plugs on the outside of the rod. I don't use them on the downrigger, because I'm gonna get my bait down anyway with a downrigger ball. But I use these a lot on the outside, and then you can use the Hank Brown hookup lure. But I like these because they go down, they go deeper. Now, when you use a leaded bait in salt water, the lead will dull quick. So about every 30 minutes, if you're using, this just happen to be stainless, but if you're using one that's not, take your pocket knife or steel wool or something and shine that up real good about every 30 minutes. Just scrape it, and you can shine it right back up. And it makes it where they can see the fish can see the whole lot better. And then what they call the Hank Brown hookup lure, I use these a lot on downriggers, but they're weighted. It's just got the hookup lure. Right here, and then if you'll notice, I put a little piece of plastic, the tubing like you use in an aerator on, just slip that little piece of tubing down over the hook, and then run your wire through there, and that keeps your wire from flopping all over everywhere, and that just holds your wire in place. And there again, I got my protection built in. We caught 3 kings today, and two of them had the hook, both hooks inside of his head. I might have missed him, you don't never know, but that still, again, I like that slip trapper. Something else you can do too is in your skirts. I like a purple or black or something like that. I like a colored, a real dark kind of skirt down deep, and I like a lighter colored skirt, something like this up top. I don't use a lot of real dark colored skirts up top. And it's a situation where you got a cloudy day, a sunshiny day. If you took a piece of glass and held it up in the sun shining, or if you took that black rig right there and held it up against the sunlight, which can you see better? You know, it's hard to see that glare up, but you see that darker. So it depends on the sunlight, you know, and where it's a cloudy day or sunshiny day. And when you go up to a buoy, just remember too, you know, you got a shady side of the buoy, and then you got a sunlight side of the buoy. I try to troll 95% of the time downwind, because if you stop and think, when you're trolling, going into the wind with a boat, you got a lot of this, you got a lot of commotion behind your boat, a lot of wave action. The fish can't see your baits as good. So when you're trolling for kings, try to troll as much as you can downwind. If you got a ledge, sometimes you might want to go back around. If you got a bait ball on the bottom, go around and come back across it, you know, downwind, because you got less turbulence behind the boat. And you know, when your boat's doing like this and your bait's jerking up and down, sometime when the fish will hit at your bait, he'll miss it. You won't get a good hookup. So I like to troll downwind as much as I can, and that way I get better hookups. And that's basically what I do for king mackerel fishing. And I just don't stay at one place too long, you know, because if the fish is there, they'll let you know. Be observant of the birds, bait on top when you're running where you're going. Keep an eye on the water in front of you, because sometimes you'll see a flying fish come out under the boat. That can be a good thing. But a lot of times flying fish now will be over structure if you think about it. The day we was fishing and we ran across the ledge and 2 flying fish went out, but they were working on top of that ledge. But I've gone over basically what I use, and I just keep it simple. Now in the early spring, I use artificial baits a lot, like the man stretch plug or the Azuris. I pull the artificial baits because the water's still cold. But when the water gets real warm, about 74, 75 degrees, they'll quit hitting artificial. Then you have to go to dead cigar minnows or live bait or batted hook. And now in the fall, October, November, when the water cools back off, they'll go back to hitting artificial bait. So that way you control and know how to, you know, worry about getting bait and everything. And I use I showed the man stretch plugs. The 25s are excellent for King Mackerel. Throw them off the back, and then put your 2 Yazures on the outside. I got my 8 foot, my 8 foot. You got your wide spread. And try to use the silver one. It's got a silver side that got a lot of flash to them. And the white man stretch with the red head is the best color you'll use to catch kings with. And the Yazures, the black back with the silver sides, and the one with the big lip, that dives deeper. Use the same rods and reels. You just have to, set them down, and they'll be staggered the same way because your lines are already preset. And I'll be glad to answer any more questions I can, if you got any about how to set your boat up, or the rod and reels, or whatever, or the baits.
How fast do you troll? Okay.
3.5 to 4.5. And you got to remember now, if you're trolling into the wind, you got to bump up a little bit to keep the same speed. If you're coming back down the wind, you got to back down a little bit to keep the same speed. But normally about 380 is the ideal for dead bait.
Knots?
Yeah. Knots. And live bait about 1.5 to 2, just above idle. In fact, there's a lot of time going downwind on live bait, we just knock the boat out of gear. Because you don't want to pull that bait, you want it to swim natural. And when you hook a belly hook, through the nostrils, and menhaden through the nostrils, and you hook that treble hook, that sacred treble, hook it to the back, it won't make any difference whether you hook him on the back or the side, like as far as the way he swims. But a dead bait it does, and that's the reason that I told you about the slip treble. You can adjust that treble to make your bait swim right. Where if you just got one treble back there, you can't hook that into the fish because it's too long. But it doesn't matter if you got that middle treble, you don't have to worry about the second treble. I use 40-pound wire to make the King's rig with. And about 3 years ago, I switched over to that no kink wire. All my lures are one piece. I don't use no crimps. There's no crimp anywhere in this. It's one piece from the back hook to the swivel. And like I said, I use that little piece of plastic in there to hold the hook out. And then I just tie that right on this and the knot, and I just slip the skirt down on top of it. And it's all one piece, and that way you know how to spend time crimping everything. And you can just make it's just one piece rig. Same thing with your live bait, or your naked baits, or even with your pirate plug. It's just one piece. But when you use these baits right here, always get you these blue water candy makes a mylar skirt, and just always put you that mylar skirt in there. You'll catch a lot more fish. It gives it that much the flash. That's the reason I use the flash on these here. And these, see, look at the mylar on that. I have mine custom made, and I just doubled the mylar on that lure. And we sell these downstairs, and I always use these on my downrigger. It's one of the best downrigger colors, and that's another. I use another excellent downrigger color. This orange, here I use this a lot. It's one of my favorite colors on the downrigger. And I got the yellow. Cause I try to match the skirt with the hookup lure. Say if I use a red bait, I try to use something with some red in it. And if I'm using chartreuse or yellow or orange, whatever, I try to match a little skirt with it just to give it some color to it. And but the secret of these things is this mylar. If you take an old rubber skirt, when you get there and get the fish and it gets wet, it just does like this. You have no flare to your bait. When you put in the boat and the boat's moving, you want something that's got the flash to it. So I double the mylar in my baits, and that way, when that skirt's working, it's doing like this. You catch a lot more candy if you lose skirts with a lot of mylar in it. And like I say, it's just a trial and error. Just look for bait and look for leeches, because if you mark a sleek bottom with nothing on it, you might well move. Like I said, we went to one place today, we was on the buoy to start with, made a pass around the buoy, there's bait on the buoy, won't no kings there. And a lot of times if you go up to a buoy and you see bait working around it, if there's kings there, you'll see a king hit the bait. You'll see the bait push up and be observant of that. And then if you make a couple of, and we just moved off the buoy and we found some ledges out there with bait on it, that's where the kings were. You might have to go to 3 or 4 places. I like to fish a pattern. If I'm going out to the north end, I like to go to 355 first. That's the military. That's not the military, but about the first AR at the north end. And if I don't get a bite there, I'll come over to F buoy. But before you get to F buoy, there's a place called the Battlegrounds on the right. And you stop there and make a pass. If you don't, then you go to F buoy. You don't do anything to F buoy, South Christmas Rock. You don't do anything, go to E buoy. You don't go to nothing to E buoy, go to Christmas Rock. Then you can go to Honeymoon. So I've gone to 7 places. And if I go 30 minutes, I fished 4 hours, and I've gone to 7 places. 9 out of 10 times you'll find kings in one of those places. But you haven't spent all day at one place without any fish. It's very important to keep moving because them fish, if they're there, they'll let you know. If I go out the south end, I go to the first set, which is 362, second set 66, buoy's gone. Then I go to the riverbed, or either I go to 368 or 200, then I'll come back over there, Jesse's Ledge, I come back in. So I fished a pattern. Or you can go a little bit further south to 376, the doorstep, and you come back in, or 10 Mile Rock. But that way, you know, you're not going straight back, you're not wasting a lot of time, you're fishing in the pattern. And it works for me, you know. I could go out there tomorrow, I believe, and catch my limited kings in just a little while. But I'm using just what you see. But the main thing is don't stay in one place too long. Anybody got any more questions?
Yes, sir.
All right.
You said you used the ballyhoo or the cigar minnows.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about it, so I could be completely way off. But on the pier, when I see people doing the kingfish and they use some bluefish for bait, is that anything you would use or not use?
Yes, if I was tournament fishing, I use live bait. And if you want to go out there and jig you up some blue with diamond jigs, that's all great. I mean, if you want to fish offshore with them, if you want to take time, take your throw net, come back in the waterway and get you some menhaden. Wayne can share that with information with you. You can catch him bait like that, but I don't use live bait because to me it takes too much time to find it. Because sometimes you spend an hour or two trying to find bait, and while I'm looking bait, while you looking bait, I'm fishing. Can't catch but 3 kings anyway, so if it beat the kings out there, you can catch them pretty quick. But if I'm looking for a 30-pound king or 40-pound king, I'm gonna use live bait. One of the most successful kingfishing we ever had was that he used live bait all the time. He was tournament fishing. He'd come in the store on Fridays mornings and buy him 4 or 5 diamond jigs and gotcha plugs. He would go down to the inlet and he would fish for bluefish all day. And he'd pin him up about 15 bluefish about that long. That's what he used for the tournament. But if you're just out there pleasure fishing and don't want to take time to catch bait, you can take dead cigar minnows or you can take ballyhoo. And if you want to, when you get to the buoy, if you want to take you some beaky rig, jig up some bait, you can. Now, if the water's real slick, you're not going to catch as many fish with dead bait as you will live bait. But if you get 2-foot chop out there, then you're going to have to put your baits down under the water because you can't see it up on top, all the commotion. So if I'm out there fishing and it gets rough in 2 or 3 foot, 4 foot seas, I put everything on downriver because you're not going to catch a lot of fish on top. But if it's real slick where the fish can see, then that live bait on top working is a lot better. When the water gets real slick, a lot of times I'll go up to the buoy and jig me up some cigar minnows instead of fishing dead bait, and you'll catch more fish that way. Common sense will tell you that they can see it better if there's not a lot of commotion on top. Yes, sir.
You said you were not using crimps on your stainless steel heater. Do you tie?
It's no kink wire. You can tie a regular 7-strand, or you can tie no kink, but you can't tie stainless steel.
Okay, so no kink
No
wire.
kink.
And you can just tie a regular knots with it?
Figure 8 knot.
I think the no kink is titanium.
Oh.
Or you can just use regular 7-strand. It doesn't matter, but you can still tie any of it. But it just makes it that easy. You don't have to worry about crimping. You go from the hook to the swivel, just one piece. And anytime if you want to come in the store, I'll be glad to show you how to tie one. It's a lot easier to do that way. You know how to work. You can tie them out there on the boat, but you always should make sure you got you some chartreuse beads, glow beads, especially if you're going to fish on a downrigger. And with naked bait, then chartreuse beads works great. Because you'd be surprised how what you can see down that water 40 foot when it's dark down there. George, I know you know George Eaton and Randall, they do a lot of tournament fishing. They use glue beads on their down baits 90% of the time.
The glow bead goes right from the hook?
Yeah.
Is it tied or is it slide?
No, just slide.
Slide, okay, go.
Because when the boat's moving, you want that bead moving. Anything else? Like I say, I'm in the store on the weekend. If you got any questions, come in. I'll be glad to answer them or share any information that I got. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. And guys, if any of you's on the internet, you've probably seen me in my reports. And I've just launched this week a campaign for several new social media sites. I'm now doing the Vine. I'm now doing Instagram. I'm now doing Twitter, Facebook. I've started doing some 6-second video fishing reports every week. Some of them are kind of funny.
6 seconds.
6 seconds. Hence the Vine. The Vine is 6-second videos. So I've started trying to utilize that social media to get fishing information out to you guys. And so you can check us out on the Vine, and Twitter, and all that kind of stuff. And I'll try to keep y'all as much up to date as I possibly can. You see the little 10-minute fishing reports that I do, and it looks like it's say 10 minutes. He probably built that, in 15 minutes. No, it takes me about 6 hours to put all that together because I've got to edit all the pictures, crunch it all, make a script up, and do it. So it's not done just like that. It's hard to do that every day. But the 6-second videos, I can do that every day. They're much more condensed and concise, of course, because it's 6 seconds. But it's still good information. It'll keep you updated just about every day. But with that, we'll welcome Wayne Crisco.
One more day.
Thank you, Wayne.
Let the good weather, let the good weather hold. Let the good weather hold. Let the good weather hold. One more day.